Hi guys. Hi guys, how are you doing? How are you doing? Please feel free to introduce yourself. My name is Ananth and I am the program manager of CodXCrypt. Please feel free to introduce yourself to the chat and let us know from where you guys are joining from. And hope you guys are excited for the event. Feel free to introduce yourself to the chat. And we have our first informative session on Git and GitHub as part of our open source day event. And as you all know that GitHub and Git is very important for any of the developers to know about themselves. Okay, just a second. Yeah, am I audible right now? Please if anybody of you can just let me know in the chat. Yeah, of course. Sorry for the network issue. So hope I am sounding well right now. Okay, so we all know that Git and GitHub is very important for any of us to participate in any of the open source event. And this session will be from scratch. So we are allowing beginners to come. Just a second. Is the video breaking? Just let me know because I'm just figuring out with different Wi-Fi. Is it perfect now? Just let me know. Okay. Okay then. Yeah, so sorry for the network issues and glitches. I'm experiencing a rainy day over here, so maybe that's because of it. Still breaking. Just a second.
Avantika, I can host the session. You could stay backward.
I just wanted to know, is there my audio is breaking? Like I
No,
think it's perfectly fine
audio
here.
is audio is clear. You could
Uh,
turn off your video for the if you have any issues for the video, I guess. And yeah, you could speak with
okay,
them.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry for the network issues. I guess yeah, my audio is also breaking.
Okay, so I will be hosting the session. So hi sir. I will be inviting sir to the stage now. For the session to be continued. Welcome, sir. Welcome to
Hi,
CodXCrypt.
hi Anati, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we could start with the session as we have already delayed by 5 minutes.
Sure, no worries.
Yeah.
So, hi guys, my name is Ananth Hegde. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have multiple startups, and I've been coding for about 8 years now, 8 to 10 years, I'd say. Uh, and Git and GitHub is something I was introduced to about 5 to 6 years ago, and from ever since then, I've been using it for all of my projects, all of my version controlling, and I've also been contributing to the open source community as much as I can. And in any company that you join, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of you are developers who are rather, you want to become developers. So any company that you join will be using a certain, version of Git or a certain flavor of Git. Maybe they're using Mercurial, maybe they're using Git. But every company will have a version control system, and getting used to Git is the first step to, um, you know, getting used to any version controlling system, because Git is it forms the basis of all of this, all of the other, version controlling systems. So I'll be sharing my screen now, and you guys can put it in the comment section if you can see my screen or not, and we can get started. Unnati, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Perfect. So, let me just state it once more. This is a talk on Git and GitHub in association with CodXCrypt and SkillX, which is one of my startups where we develop, we train millennials and college students to become ready for the industry. So, yeah, here's a use case scenario. So just imagine that you're creating a project with multiple collaborators. So let's say you're creating a game. Let's say you're creating the best game ever, right? You have the complete feature list designed. You're like, okay, we have 3 features in the game. We have 3 different collaborators or 3 different developers, and each of them will be developing 1 feature each, right? So the questions that arise instantly as soon as you say, okay, we have 3 collaborators on the project or 3 developers on the project is, how are we going to handle the different inputs? So I can say that, okay, I'll have a Google Drive where, we'll have the code base over there, and you download from the code base every day, you update your files there, and you upload it back to the code base with your name, right? So you put in, so for example, let's say the project name is the greatest game ever. So you create a Google Drive folder. In that you have a zip file of the basic code, and let's say today I make my change, so I say, the greatest game ever hyphen Ananth hyphen today's date, right? And then I upload it, and then tomorrow someone else downloads it, and then they make their changes and they upload it. But this brings in a lot of issues, right? Because let's say me and one of my friends, we'll give them a name X. So let's say X develops a version and I develop a version of the game on the same day. Now, how are we going to combine both of our projects together? We'll need a collaborator, we'll need an integrator who does all of that. And all of this becomes very difficult on Google Drive, right? Even though it's online, even though it's distributed and a lot of people can contribute to it, it becomes very, very difficult with Google Drive. And that is where Git comes in. So Git is, sorry, yeah. Git is an open source SCM. It is a distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. Now, there's a lot of words out there that are not very easy to understand. There's a lot of jargon, tech jargon thrown out there. So let's go over it one by one. Okay. So the first word that you see is Git. That is the name of the product. That is what we'll be working with. Open source. The second thing is open source. Now, all of you know what open source is. If you do not, let me just tell it out very clearly. Open source code or open source software is any software whose code base is open to scrutiny and contribution. And 99% of open source code is available to you on GitHub, right? So that is the meaning of the word open source. The next word that we see is SCM, and SCM stands for source code management, right? So source code management. So whatever project you have, it's going to have a source code, right? So source code management simply refers to managing the source code, whether it's managing it with regards to their contributors, whether it's managing it with regards to its version, with regards to its bugs, with regards to any new features that you're developing. All of that is bundled into one big term called as SCM. Now, the next word that we might not understand is distributed version control system, right? That is probably the last term that is difficult to understand. So let's go over it one by one again. Distributed. So distributed means, distributed across multiple developers, multiple remote people, multiple contributors, multiple collaborators, right? So distributed means that. Version control system. I think a lot of you who've worked with software or games or have even played games can notice that each and every software has a version on it. 1.0.41 release, 2.2.25, and again there's a lot of different channels on it as well. So there's a stable version, there's a master version, there's a unstable version, there's a developer's version. So we have multiple versions of it as well, and inside that we have multiple features, right? So all of that is handled by Git. So version control system means all of these things, whether you have different versioning, whether you have different features, all of that is handled by Git, right? And the last few lines are very simple to understand. It's meant to or designed to handle everything from very small projects which have maybe 2, 3 collaborators, something like a college project, to very large, very large projects, like proper projects that are dealt with in corporate environments with more than 3 teams of 20 people each working on it. So that is basically what Git is, and let's start talking about it one by one. So the most important feature that Git gives you is branches. So a lot of you might, look at Git and be like, okay, what the hell is a branch, right? So let's talk about branches. So imagine your software or your source code, right? Imagine your source code as a universe or a world, right? Now, every branch that you create is an alternate reality of that same world. So there can be an alternate reality where a particular feature exists, and in the master branch it does not, right? So in master we can say that, let's say, okay, let's take a very simple example of a chess game. So I'm creating a game of chess online, and I am introducing a new feature to it where there's a new piece, something that moves like a knight as well as a bishop at the same time. Very absurd idea, I know, but just bear with me for a second. So let's say that is what I'm doing. So I can create a new branch, right? I create a new branch of this master which has the basic 16 pieces, the 8 pawns and the 2 rooks and the 2 knights, the 2 bishops, the king and queen. So that is the master version. Now I create an alternate reality where I have a piece that moves like a knight as well as a bishop. So I create a branch saying knight hyphen bishop piece, right? I create that branch, I code that branch, I develop that branch completely, and then I'm like, okay, fine. Now this is ready. I can push it to the game saying ki, we have a new patch, we have a new piece to introduce to you guys. And that is what a branch does. It creates an alternate reality. It creates an alternate reality for your code. And then once your code is done, or rather once your code is developed and ready to be pushed to the main branch back, it merges the two realities, right? So it merges the two realities in the sense that your master branch, which is what you're publishing to your gaming audience, is merged back with your night, or rather your development branch. And once you merge it back, you're like, okay, fine. Now we have this new patch. People download the game again, as in maybe if it's on App Store, people download it from their App Store. If it's on your website, they download the new patch from your website and they play it from there. And now your development is done. All this while people have been working on the master branch, or rather playing on the master branch. So they haven't had any issues. So you were developing on the side while people were continuing to work with your project, right? And that is the most important feature of branch. That is the most important feature of Git, called as branch. So a lot of people wonder, what the importance of branches are. And this thing, this feature branch actually solves our first 2 questions here. How are you going to handle different inputs from different collaborators? So let's say collaborator X, collaborator Y, and collaborator Ananth, right? So if I want to develop something, I create a feature or a branch saying feature hyphen Ananth hyphen, whatever issue I'm trying to fix or whatever feature I'm trying to introduce. And then X creates his own branch saying collaborator hyphen X hyphen feature hyphen 2. Okay. And then when we're done with our development, we just merge it back to the master branch, right? And if there's any merge issues, Git will tell us that. So for example, let's say X and I have worked on the same file, and now there's a merge issue, right? So Git will instantly tell us, hey guys, both of you have worked on the same file. I don't know which file to commit to the master branch, right? And that is where your integrator or whoever the lead on the project is, the project lead or the team lead, can tell, okay, X's code looks better or X's code is more suited to what we're trying to do. So Ananth, how about you roll back your change on that particular file, and we can integrate your other features, but on the main file that we have that both of you have an issue on, we'll be going with X's version, right? And that is how these first two questions are solved. How are you going to handle inputs from different collaborators? And what will you do if two collaborators work on the same file? The final question is how you're going to manage versioning. And again, branches give you complete control to versioning. So when you merge a branch, and let's say it creates a breaking change, let's say you merge two branches and somehow the game just stops working. The game just starts crashing randomly, and you're like, okay, what the hell happened? You can always roll back a commit or roll back a merge and be like, okay, just roll this back. For example, let's say this is the merge that destroyed the game. So we can just roll it back and act as if this never existed, right? And that is how rollbacks work, and that is how version controlling works with Git. So this is the most important feature of Git, branches. And again, just think of it as alternate realities where your code exists. And that is how, if you think of it in that way, it just becomes very clear. So we create an alternate reality, we merge it back to our reality when we're done with development, and that is how it works. So what can you do with branches? So there's three main things that you can do with branches. So the first one is, as always, you can create a branch to try out an idea, and then apply a patch, and then experiment with it. So let's say, again, with the chess game, I had an idea of having a piece with knight as well as bishop movement. So when I think of that, I create a new branch. I, do my development. I commit to my branch a few times, and then I'm like, okay, this is not a really great idea. It's not really working well. In theory it was good, but in practice it's actually really messed up. So I can always delete that branch, go back to the main branch, and be like, okay, fine, you know what, it was a good experiment, but it doesn't work, right? Having a branch that only contains what goes into production, another that does testing, and another that does day-to-day work. Now, this is something that companies follow on a very rigid basis. So if you work with companies who have a very strict version controlling system, they're going to have a production branch, they're going to have a excuse me, they're going to have a development branch, and that development branch will branch out to, let's say, collaborator A development, collaborator B development, collaborator C development. Each of them will have their own branch, right? And that is how it works in corporates, in even in startups to a certain extent, even in startups where they have very loose rules as far as version control is concerned. And yeah, that is how it works. So again, the production branch is generally linked to their servers. So any changes that you make to the production branch is automatically pushed to the server that they have. So that is why they keep the production branch very, very protected. Only certain people are allowed to merge changes to the production branch, people who have a lot of experience. But any branch that you make yourself, you can do whatever you want with it. You can make your changes, and then you can issue a pull request saying, yo, can you just merge my work with the production, because I feel like my work deserves to be featured in your software, right? So that's how the second feature works. And the last one is you can create new branches for each feature you're working on. Now, this is very intertwined with the second concept, where you have a branch for each and every feature. So let's say as a developer, I'm working on two different features, and I don't want both of them to be intertwined in one commit. I want them in two different branches. So I create two different branches, and I create one branch for feature X, I create one branch for feature Y. When I finish feature X, I merge feature X. When I finish feature Y, I merge feature Y. And Git will take care of all of this as long as the two branches do not work on the same files. If the two branches work on the same files, then it will release a merge error or a merge issue and you can fix that as a developer or as the integrator. Whoever the team lead is will fix that for us, right? Now, the next part is really a extension of this branches part, which is distributed development, which is what we faced over here, right? So we had distributed version control system. So distributed development is something that has come across us, come across to us over the last 10, 20 years. Wait, we're in 2021. Last 20 years. So ever since 2000s, people have been talking about distributed development, where companies have been saying, okay, you want to work remotely, work remotely. You don't need to come to the, you don't need to come to us every day, or you don't need to come to our city and work. If you want to work from Bangalore, you can work from Bangalore because everything is online, right? So there's a shared repository or a shared code base, and all the developers work across each and every feature or their own timelines to commit or contribute to this project, right? So that is how Git helps over there. And one of the most important features of Git is the staging area. This is another very important feature of Git that I would say not other SCMs do not have, other source control managements do not have. So a staging area is basically where you can stage your commits, right? You can be like, okay, I have three different commits that I want to put in today. So today morning I work on feature X, today afternoon I work on feature Y, today evening I work on feature Z. And I don't want to put them all in one commit, and I'm not going to have internet all day. I'll have internet maybe in the evening, and that is when I'll commit everything, right? So this is where the staging area works out. So you can just create your stage, and you can commit, or rather partially commit, your data or your feature X, feature Y, and feature Z over the course of the day. And in the evening, it'll commit it, it'll push three different commits to the repository. You don't have to, you can work on three different things at once, put it in the staging area, and then commit it in the evening, or you can push them all at the same time. And that is the best feature of Git, which I feel really enables your remote work. So if you do not have internet for some reason, or you're in a remote area with lack of internet, and you go to a place with internet only once a day, you can always work, push it to the staging area, and then commit it in the evening. You have no restriction saying ki, okay, you don't have internet, then you can't work, right? So I'm open to questions right now regarding Git, regarding my presentation. So after I take the questions, I'll be showing you guys a live demo of what we do, as in how Git works. We'll be using GitHub Desktop as well as VS Code. So I'll be moving forward to that if you guys have no more questions. I think Unnati, you can help me out in the comments if there's any questions available. You can just post them to me. If not, I will be moving forward with the demo.
No, sir, I guess there are no more questions. We could start with the demo.
Okay, great. So I'll just go ahead with the demo. So guys, first things first, where do I download Git? So you just type download Git to Google, right? So there's two things you need to download. The first thing you want to download is just go to getscm.com/downloads, and you just choose your OS, and you go ahead and download that, right? So 32-bit or 64-bit, you can download whichever one you want. The setup, very simple. So let me just actually, let me just lead you through the setup. It's not at all difficult, guys. You just choose the default options, right? Let me just show it to you. So I just open the setup, and this will install Git as a command line tool for you, right? So this is Git for Windows, which will install Git as a command line tool for you when you want to use the CLI, or for those of you who don't know what CLI is, it's a command prompt. So if you want to use Git there, you can install this. Either way, even if you do not want to use Git there, you want GitHub for desktop, you should still have this just in case your GUI stops working. So it's a very recommended thing to have. Just have this, install this software first before installing anything else. So you just go over there, and once you open, this is the screen that you see. So I'll just disable only show new options so that people, my installation goes the same as people who are installing it for the first time. So over here, you see where you want to install Git. So I will keep it on the default choices. And if you want a desktop icon, you can have a desktop icon right here. I don't need a desktop icon, so I'm not going to choose it, right? Your default editor. So you can choose your default editor here. So whatever your default editor is, so I use Git VS Code. So that's what I'll be choosing as my default editor. Whatever default editor you use is what will open your Git commits and your Git messages. And most of the IDEs these days, when it comes to VS Code, Sublime, Notepad++, I don't remember, but I think it does have a plugin for Git. So all of these IDEs have a Git extension. So I'll be showing you how to, take care of your versioning from the IDE as well as from GitHub from desktop. So we'll be going over both of them. I'll be showing you guys how to do it with VS Code because it's very popular, right? The next one is adjust the name of the initial branch in new repositories. So just let Git decide that. So it's by default master, which is what is used by most companies as well. So let Git decide that. Just leave it as it is. Everything, all these options, unless you are experts in Git, which I'm assuming you're not, given that you're tuning into the stream. So just leave it as it is, leave it in the default options. You don't need to choose anything specific. Use OpenSSH for your for your executables, because if you're using Plink or Putty, then you will be most likely working on a Linux base. So even Linux these days gives you OpenSSH options. You don't need to be working with Plink. And Plink honestly has been giving me a lot of issues when I used to use it. So just go ahead with OpenSSH for your Git environment, right? All of this is by default installed in your operating systems. It doesn't install anything extra, okay? The last one is which library will you be using for your backend? So just again, just leave it as it is, leave it default. If you don't know what you're doing, just leave it as on its default, this thing. And the checkout ending conversations, again, just leave it as it is. Leave all of this as it is. You don't need to change anything for your basic GitHub work. If you will be installing Git as a corporate environment, in a corporate environment, they will be telling you what changes you want to make, right? So all of this, just leave it as it is. As I said, you don't need to do anything. And on this last step, you just go ahead and click install. I'll be clicking cancel because I already have Git, right? So once you install it, it will install Git for you. It's about 2 to 3 minutes on good laptops, not even 2 to 3 minutes, 30 seconds of installation. So once you do that, you will have Git. And how do you get to know that you have Git? You just open up your CMD after the install is done and you type Git, right? And if it says all of this, that this is the usage and all of that, then you know that Git has been installed on your laptop, and you can type Git hyphen version to know which version of Git you're running on, right? So that's how you know Git is working on your laptop or your PC. And after that, the next thing you want to do is go ahead to GUI clients and install GitHub Desktop, right? So the website to that is desktop.github.com. You go ahead and download it. I've already downloaded it and installed it, right? So again, the setup is very simple over here. You don't even have to make your decisions. It'll automatically just go ahead and install everything for you. And once it's installed, this is the screen that you'll see. I think the installer actually ended up closing it for me. So I'll just go ahead and open it once more. Oh, it's reinstalling it for me. So I'll just let it reinstall GitHub Desktop, right? Once it's done installing, and get back to it. In the meantime, let me show you guys how GitHub works, right? So GitHub is where all of your code resides, right? So all of your code, rather all of the world resides here, right? So you can create repositories. Repositories are basically projects. You can think of repositories as projects, right? And so when you create a new repository, there's a lot of things you need to decide upon, which I'll be going over one by one when I create this, right? And I'll be showing you what a branch is, how to create a branch, how to work branches, and all of that. And finally, I'll be showing you guys how you'll be contributing to the CodXCrypt workshop. To the CodXCrypt challenge that they have. I'll be showing you guys how to work with that as well, right? So when you open GitHub Desktop, this is what you see, right? This is what you see on GitHub Desktop. So the first thing you want to do to work with GitHub is create your own repository, right? Just create your own repository so that you can work with it, you can understand how branches work and all of that. So I'll just create a new repository on my hard drive, right? And I'll call it CodXCrypt, right? CodXCrypt hyphen GitHub hyphen tutorial, right? That is what, sorry, tutorial. That is what I'll be calling it. I'll be putting in a description, GitHub tutorial repository, repository. Sorry, my keyboard just stops working sometimes. Repository for GitHub, GitHub tutorial repository for CodXCrypt Live. Okay, and now you choose a local path. So this is where you decide where your code will reside, right? So for me, I'll go to F drive and I'll create a new folder here called CodXCrypt tutorial, right? Hyphen tutorial. So this is my local repository. It's called a local repository because it is where your code lives on your local machine, right? I'll be selecting this as my workshop, as my local repository. And now you choose whether to ignore any files. Now, when you create, let's say, I mean, those of you who know Node.js, you know that there's a folder called Node modules that takes up like 3-4 GB of your space. You don't want to keep uploading that and downloading that, right? Because that can just be installed using npm, right? You can just say npm install and whatever's there in your, in your, I think it's a JSON file. Not very used to it, but I think you have a JSON file that defines all of your npm, npm repositories or rather libraries that you need. Those of you who work with Flutter, you'll know that there's a pubspec.yaml file that tells you all the libraries you need. So you don't need to upload those libraries and keep downloading those libraries. So that is what git ignore does. It ignores these files. And if you choose the language, so for example, if you choose the C language, it'll ignore all the boilerplate files that, C programs create. So let's say Laravel. So I think you have Laravel right here. So Laravel again creates a lot of boilerplate code that is by default there, and you don't want to upload that. So you can ignore all of that. And that is what git ignore does. So for now, I'll be leaving it as a blank option. I'll be saving it as none. And my license, again, you can choose a license. And this is the best part about Git, guys. You don't need to type out your own licenses. So for example, if you want to create an open source license on the MIT branch, you can just say MIT license and it'll create the license for you, right? So again, I'll be saying none over here, and I'll be creating my repository. So once my repository is created, the first thing that it says is publish your repository to GitHub, right? So as you can see on my GitHub, I don't have a repository that says CodXCrypt yet, right? So I'll be publishing my repository to GitHub. And now you can see we have two options here, GitHub and GitHub Enterprise. So when you'll be working with companies, they'll be giving you an AE account where you'll be logging in there. The process is very similar. You don't need to do anything specific. But when it comes to your regular GitHub open source code, you can say CodXCrypt GitHub tutorial. That is going to be the name of my repository. You can name it whatever you want. I'll be keeping it public so that you guys can see it, right? I'll not be keeping it private, right? And you can choose an organization. Now I have multiple organizations, but for now I'll keep it none. So I'll be publishing it to my main repository, right? So once you publish the repository, let me just show you what happens once I publish the repository. Now there's no code here, there's no files here. So nothing's going to be in my repository. So let me just look for it. Codex. I think it should be somewhere around here. Yeah, there it is. CodXCrypt GitHub tutorial. Now it has no files right here, right? So let's get started. Now let's say I am the developer who will be creating a simple, very simple C program that says hello world, right? So all I'll be doing is opening this in VS Code, right? So open the repository in your external editor. So since Git already knows that my preferred editor is VS Code, it gives me that option. If you chose Sublime Text here, it'll give you open in Sublime Text. If you choose Notepad++, it'll show you Notepad++, whatever it is, it'll show it to you over here, right? Now, once my VS Code launches, I'll be showing you guys how to create and publish changes and everything, right? And how to create all of that. Okay, so we have everything ready here. This is my folder. There's a Git attributes file here. There should be a Git ignore file here as well. If you notice hidden files, if you view hidden files, there'll be a Git ignore file there as well. So I'll be creating a new file here saying, hello world.c, right? Very simple. I'm not going to, code very complicated projects here. We're going to keep the use case as simple as possible, right? So hello world.c, very simple code, hash include stdio.h and main void, right? And I'll be saying, um, I'll be saying printf hello world, right? And I'll be returning 0. Okay, and that creates my hello world file. And now I've created this file, but if you notice on my GitHub repository, it's still not there, right? And that is because I have not committed it. Now, as soon as I open my GitHub for desktop, you can see that it says there's one changed file, dude. You need to commit this or you need to delete it, right? There's a difference between your local repository and what's online. And you can see that if I open it in my file explorer, I think it was called CodXCrypt tutorial, right? So if you notice here, the difference between my online repository and my local repository is this hello world file. And GitHub automatically tells me, look, dude, you have a difference here, and this is your difference between your, your branch online and your version offline. So now we say, okay, so there's a difference. Let's commit this change. So when I say commit this change, it means say that, okay, this code is correct, this code is working, I want to push it to my online repository. And that is what a commit means. So every commit requires a commit message. So down here, you'll be putting the commit message. So I'll be saying created hello world.c, right? And I'll be putting a commit description saying hello world.c when run prints hello world, right? That's it. I'm not going to say too much about it, and you can commit it to main, right? Now, main is what our branch is called, right? So once we commit it to main, we say that, okay, so in main, there's one change left. Now, if you go back to your online repository and you notice it's still not committed, or rather, it's still not showing up. And that is because we haven't pushed our commit, right? So when we commit something, it's still in our local repository. Now, when you push it to your remote, or when you push it to your origin, right? That is when it is pushed to our online repository. So again, very simple things when it comes to GitHub desktop. You just need to click on some buttons. You need to click on push origin, and it will take care of all of that. Once it refreshes, you can go back here, reload this page, and you'll notice that there's a hello world.c. Right. Okay. So that is how you push stuff to your branch. Okay. So I'm again going to take a quick break, and I will wait for you guys. If you have any doubts so far, I'll be taking them so far. And I'll be taking them for a while. And if you guys don't have any doubts, I'll be moving back and I'll be showing you guys how to work with branches. Okay, I see amazing work, CodXCrypt. I see CodXCrypt is the best community. Okay, I don't think you guys have any doubts so far. So let's get back to it. Okay, so let's say now I'm done with this. Now I have an idea where I want to create a branch, or rather I want to create a feature. I want to create another C file that adds two numbers, right? So how do I do that, right? I don't want to keep it in this main branch because a lot of people are subscribed to this main branch. Let's say a lot of people are using this main branch, and I don't want to show my development work over there until I'm sure that it's working, right? So what I'll be doing is I'll be creating a new branch. So down here, you notice current branch main, right? So you create a new branch, and I will say now branches have very specific naming standards. So whatever project you're working on, just ask the head of the project or the lead of the project what the branch naming standard is. But for me and people who work under me, it's very simple. Your name followed by either the issue number or the name of the feature that you're trying to create. So I'll call it. So if I'm trying to create a feature, I'll say Ananth hyphen feature hyphen what is the name of the feature? Addition, right? So create a branch, okay, and publish the branch, right? Now, when you create a branch, it's going to create a branch of the existing code, right? So whatever is existing, that's where the branch is created. So if I go to my Ananth feature addition branch, it still has the hello world.c, right? Now I can delete this file here if I want to, but then when I merge it again, it's going to create a merge conflict. So I'm not going to delete the file. Instead, I'm going to add another file, right? So right here, you can see over here in VS Code that I have chosen the new branch, right? My new branch is Ananth feature addition, and I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it addition.c, right? Same old stuff, very simple stuff. I'm going to say hash include stdio.h and main has a void, right? And we're going to say int num1, num2, and sum, right? And then I'm going to say, once I say num1, num2, sum, I'm going to say printf, enter two numbers, right? And then I'm going to say, scanf %d, ampersand a, ampersand b, right? And then, oh, sorry, scanf, scanf, and then sum equal to a plus b. Oh, sorry. Oh, wait, not ampersand a, ampersand b. Num1 and num2, right? And then we say sum equal to a plus b, right? And then we say return sum, right? Okay, so this is done. Okay. Now, if you notice in your branch, or rather in your IDE, you'll notice that there's a U that shows up here if you have Git enabled. So that means uncommitted or unmodified, right? So now, again, when we go back to GitHub for desktop, we notice that there's a changed file right here, right? So all I need to do is create my commit file, create my commit message. So I'll say created addition.c, and in my description, I'll say addition .c returns the sum of two numbers, right? Very simple stuff. I'm not doing anything complicated, and I'm committing it to, notice the branch here. I'm committing it to my new branch that I've created, right? Ananth feature addition. And then again, as always, I have to push it to my origin. And once I pushing it, if you notice over here, now if you notice, if I go to my main branch, it only has my hello world.c. But if I go to my Ananth feature addition, it has hello world.c as well as addition.c. Now, I'm done with developing my feature, right? I have done 3-4 more commits. Let's say I had an issue here. Let's say my sum was a minus b. I made it to a plus b. I made my changes, committed. I've completely developed my feature, and I'm ready to issue it to my, to the main branch. So for that, you need to create what is called as a pull request. So a pull request is basically a request to the lead of the project, asking him, saying, okay, dude, this project is, this feature is ready, or this issue is solved. I want to push it to your code. And whoever the owner of the project or the lead collaborator on the project is, only they will be allowed to merge it, right? You won't be allowed to merge it unless they give you the merge privileges. So again, you create when you create a pull request, you create the pull request name, or rather the pull request message, and you create your pull request title, or rather description, right? So once you do both of these, you click on create pull request, right? And once you create your pull request, you'll notice that now over here, I myself am the lead collaborator, and I'm the one who created the pull request. So I can see this option called merge pull request. Now over here, I can see the differences, right? So if I go to pull requests and I open this, I can see the differences that have happened, right? So if I notice commits, there's a created addition.c commit that tells me that a new file has been created and it's got 9 lines in it and all of that. Now, when I go back to pull requests, I can accept this pull request or I can merge this pull request, right? So when I click on merge pull request and I confirm the merge, it's going to merge these two branches back to my main. So as I said, this alternate reality that I've created that has the addition feature has now been merged back with my main code. So if I go back to my code, right? If I go back to my code, you'll notice that in my main branch, I have addition.c and hello world.c again, right? So now that this branch's work is done, I can go ahead and delete that branch. So I just go to branches and I go ahead and delete this branch, right? So I'm done with this branch, I delete it, and now I only have my main branch available, right? So yeah, so that is how you work with branches in in GitHub for desktop. And again, if you guys have any doubts, um, I will go ahead and answer those doubts now. If not, I'll be talking for one last topic, which is how you're going to be committing to others' repositories. So how you're going to be contributing to the CodXCrypt repositories in a while. So if you have any doubts right now, you guys can go ahead and post it in the live chat. I'll be waiting for about a minute. If you have no more doubts, I'll show you how to contribute to someone else's project. Okay, great. I don't see any doubts. Again, guys, if you have any doubts, you can put it in the chat. If not, I'll be going back to um, contributing to someone else's code. Okay, so let's say you contribute to someone else's code, right? So let's say I find this CodXCrypt /CodXCrypt website, and that is what I want to commit to. Like, this is a website that I've seen this project, I've worked with this project, and I'm like, okay, I think I can make a difference to this project, right? So what happens, like, how am I going to do that, right? So currently I don't have creation of new branch privileges. I can't create a new branch. So if you notice over here in my code, right, I can create a new branch right here, right? I can go to branches, I can create a new branch right here, but over here, I'm not allowed to do that. All I can do is download the code, right? Because this is someone else's project on GitHub and I do not have access to create branches and all of that, right? So I noticed there's an issue here, right? The issue is add a favicon to the website, right? So I want to work on this issue right now. So the standard coding etiquette is, if it's not assigned to anyone else. So if you notice, someone called Grace has already asked to assign this issue, but let's for now assume that she had not commented this. So I'll be commenting, I'll be taking over this issue, right? So once I say that, I comment this, I can start working on this issue, right? So that is the standard practice that GitHub follows, especially in open source requests. And generally, if you are well known in the GitHub community or well known in that particular repository, what they'll be doing is they'll be assigning that issue to you. So there's an assignee part here. So the leaders of the code, or the people who are the lead collaborators, they'll be assigning it to you, and then you'll be officially working on that. If not, you can always go ahead and work on it unofficially. It's not a big deal. No one's gonna sue you if you work on it. That's not an issue. So how do I start working on this? So the best way to work on it is create a fork, right here on the GitHub website. You notice there's an option called fork, right? So I choose my own name. I don't want to work on my repository on my organization's name. I'll choose my own name and I create my fork, right? So a fork is a local copy, or rather a global GitHub copy of their code on your repository. So you create a repository called CodXCrypt website on your own name. Instead of saying CodXCrypt / CodXCrypt website, you say Ananth Hegde / CodXCrypt website. And this is your local universe of that code, right? You can make as many branches as you want. You can make as many issues as you want. You can create whatever you want, and then you can create a pull request back to the original repository. And this is a very good way. I mean, forking is what I would suggest to everyone who is going to be working on the challenge, because in case you create a breaking change, you really don't want to push it back to the main code, right? So create a fork, always create a fork, create a local copy and work on that, right? So now I have Ananth Hegde / CodXCrypt website. Now I want to work on it on my local repository, right? So I go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and say um, clone repository, right? And I'm going to clone Ananth Hegde / why do I not see it? On a CodXCrypt website. I think that's what it was called, right? I'm just going to wait for it to load. I'm going to go ahead and close this repository. Um, okay, let's just go ahead and clone repository. Let's see if it's back here. I still don't see it. You know what? I'm going to restart my GitHub desktop. I think that's an issue with my internet. So I'm just going to go ahead and create the repository, right? I go here, I say file, I say clone repository, and there you go. I see it here. CodXCrypt website. Now I'm gonna have to give a local path again. So I'm gonna say fdrive CodXCrypt website, right? So I clone this repository. So now I have a local clone and I have a global clone, right? So my local clone is where I'll be making all my changes, right? Now, over here, again, what I would suggest is when you're contributing to a parent project, so you can choose what you want to do. So a fork, I'll be talking about the differences between fork and and a branch if time permits. But for now, let's just say contribute to the parent project because that's what we want to do with fork, right? So we go here and we say current branch. Now I create a new branch here saying Ananth hyphen. Now, since I'm working on an issue, the standard coding, the standard coding, or rather the standard GitHub etiquette is to write it as Ananth hyphen issue hyphen what the issue number is. So the issue number is 24 right here. So I'll say Ananth hyphen issue hyphen 24, right? So that's how people will know that this branch is related to issue 24, and I, as Ananth Hegde, will be the one who will be working on it, right? So I create that branch, and now I publish that branch. Now I go ahead and open it in my VS Code, and once I create, once I open it in VS Code, you'll notice that all of this is done. Now, the issue you'll notice is that we want to add a favicon to the website. So very simple stuff. I'll go back. I've already created the favicon. I've already downloaded the favicon work, right? I have all the icons ready. So I'll just be copying all of these icons. I'll be going to my VS Code, and I'll be saying in assets, img, I'll be creating a new folder called favicon. And over there, I'll be extracting everything. So let me just go here and I'll say CodXCrypt website, assets, images, favicon, and I'll be extracting all of these over here, right? And once I do that, now I just want to go to index.html, say, I'll make just one change to this meta content equals. Actually, I have, I haven't worked with favicons in a while, so I think it's meta content equals favicon hyphen icon, if I'm not wrong. I haven't worked with it for a while, but let's just, let's assume I'm right here. But yeah, if I'm wrong, you're welcome to correct me. So I'll just be adding for example, I'll be adding the favicon.ico, right? I'll be adding the default one. So I'll be copying the relative path and I'll be pasting it right here, right? So assets img favicon.ico. I'll be saving it. So I've made my change to my index.html, right? Now, you guys already know how to push all of this in your using GitHub desktop, right? So I'll show you guys in this example how to make these changes and push it using VS Code, right? So in VS Code, first off, go to extensions and install the Git extension, right? Git history and any of these extensions that you want. Now, by default, you have a very simplified Git versioning system already that comes pre-built. So it's going to show you all of the changes that you've made. So you made a change to index.html, you made these changes, right? So all of these changes that you've made, you can go ahead and stage them, right? So I can say my commit message is added favicon images and favicon code to index.html, right? So this is a little bit of a huge message. So I'll just say added favicon files, right? So this seems good, right? So over here, the best part about using a IDE for your GitHub work is it shows you the changes you've made to the files individually. So you can see that I've made a change in this particular file, and I can see that, okay, this is one change, this is another change, and all of that, right? So once I do that, I just, once I confirm all of my changes, I can just and click on commit, and I have committed everything, right? Now, the next thing I want to do is push, right? So again, very simple stuff. You just click on these three dots here, you go to pull or push, and you push, right? So now I don't want to push to my master branch, so I can choose push to, right? I can choose which which this thing I want to push to, and the branch you can choose here. So Ananth issue 24 is the branch I want to push to, and I don't want to push to upstream because I don't have privileges to push to upstream. Upstream is basically the original repository from where I've forked. Origin is my own repository, so I'll choose origin here, and I'll be pushing my code there. Now, once you can notice that there's some changes happening here. So once it is done, you'll notice that we are live over here, right? So if I go here, if I go to CodXCrypt GitHub tutorial and I go to my own branch, why can't I see the branch? Oh wait, sorry, I'm not in the right repository. My bad. It was Ananth Hegde CodXCrypt website, right? Yeah, CodXCrypt website. So if you notice, if I go to Ananth-issue-24, um, this is where everything has been changed. Now over here, I can see, you can say compare and pull request, right? I'll just do all of this. I won't make any changes to this. Now GitHub gives me an automatic, this thing, boilerplate code. So I can just say, I've made my changes, issue 24, issue number 24, right? And I can just choose that, added favicon, open to review, right? And then what I want to do is I want to add a, I want to add a, why am I not able to add a reviewer? Okay, I don't think this repository has reviewers available. But anyway, so over here, you can notice that there'll be reviewers available. So you can add a reviewer if that repository has reviewer options, and then you can just create the pull request. Now, once you create the pull request, it is pushed to the upstream master branch. So when you create the pull request, you can choose all of that. And once you choose all of that, you can just go ahead and, now again, if you notice, I do not have write access to this repository, so I will not be able to merge it, right? So those who want to create, those who have the right access will be able to accept this pull request, but I know my code is wrong. So I'll be closing this pull request right here. I won't be continuing with it, right? So I can close my pull request right here, and that's how it works. So once you create your pull request, leave it up to the reviewers to make sure your code is correct. They will be creating your they'll be putting comments to your review. So if you have any code issues, if they're like, if the formatting might be wrong, or maybe your code is not readable, or maybe you have a bug, so they'll be putting those reviews, and you can go back and make changes to your commit, and the pull request will be uploaded or updated automatically. So this is what you guys will be doing, I think, across the next 2 days. I know the people that will be working with. I think Unnati can give you more, more access and more information about that. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me. The session extended for a bit longer than I wanted it to, uh, but I don't know, I just get very lost when I'm explaining something. So how about you guys go ahead and ask your questions, and if you guys not have any more questions, I think Unnati can go ahead and close this out for us.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming for the session. It was a nice session. Do follow Skill X on the social media handles, and do follow CodXCrypt too for the further upcoming events. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming. It
Thank
was a
you.
nice
Just one last thing, I'd like to just put this out. You guys can mail me out if you guys have any doubts, not just regarding Git or GitHub, regarding most development platforms. I'm a web developer and I'm an app developer. So you guys can just go ahead and follow me on Instagram if you have any questions. I'm not very active on Instagram, so I'd suggest following me on LinkedIn and connecting with me on LinkedIn rather. And if I don't respond there either, you can always mail me, and I will definitely respond on mail. Okay, go ahead and follow CodXCrypt. It's an amazing online community. And SkillX, you know we do a lot of placement related trainings. So SkillX HQ is what we are on Instagram. You can go ahead and follow us there, and we will look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much, Unnati, for having me today. Um, I look forward to more
Thanks
collaborations
so
with
much, sir.
CodXCrypt in the future.
Yes, sir, sure. Thank you all for joining us, and we would be giving all the details of the Open Source Day soon. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Great. Thank you so much.